All right, well, we're going to get started now. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. We certainly appreciate you take time out of your schedule to spend some time with us here tonight. So before we get started, though, I just want to set the tone for what we're going to actually be covering here tonight. Tonight's not a sales presentation. All right, this is an educational session, and what we want to do is strategically approach one of the most important phases of your financial life, which is your retirement. And so that's what we're going to be covering here tonight. So I just want to ask a few questions here before we get started. Just a little participation. Raise your hands if these things apply to you. So how many here are concerned about market volatility, where the market could take a big drop and you could lose some of your retirement savings? Who's concerned about something like that? Raise your hands if you're concerned about somebody. Raise your hands, but yeah, of course. And how many people here are concerned about the long term, where your expenses at some point in the future might start to exceed your income because of inflation? Is anybody concerned about your long term of income versus expenses on a long term? Anybody concerned about stuff like that? Sure. I mean, with inflation running at, well, who knows, 3-4%, it's been as high as 9% in the past as well. But here's the big one. How many of you are concerned about retirement, about rising taxes, about RMDs, long-term care, and lifetime income? How many people are concerned about things like that? Sure, and that's what we're going to be talking about here tonight. So let me just flip that over for a minute. How many people here believe that they already have a plan in place, but they got everything under control? You've got your RMDs figured out, your taxes, your long-term care, you know where your income is becoming. How many people have got a plan fully in place at this point in time? Yeah, not many that I see here, which is pretty normal. So, but that's exactly what we're going to address here tonight. So my name is Mickey Elfendane. I've been doing this for 25 years, give or take. This is actually my second career. I've been helping people protect their assets using a variety of financial tools. And over the years, I've developed an expertise in retirement planning. We help people move their money from the accumulation stage, where you're growing your money, where you're climbing that mountain financially, and how do we transfer over that to the decumulation stage, where you're coming off the mountain, you are withdrawing money from your accounts, the decumulation stage. And how do we do that so that we're going to have tax-free income? And how do we make sure that we're never going to run out of money during our lifetime? So that's what we're going to be looking at. I've seen a lot of people do a great job at saving their money, and they've been growing it, but they forget about what happens when you retire, what happens to managing your taxes and managing lifetime income and RMDs and things like that. And that's where mistakes, if you make a mistake at that point in your life, I mean, that can be really expensive. And that's what we really want to avoid. So my goal tonight is really pretty simple. We're going to help you think about the various options that you have, because risks really can impact you and your family. We want to deal with them before those happen. So before we go any further, I want everybody to pull out a pen, at least one per family. And you got these sheets that we handed out at the beginning that you got with the note paper stuff. And what I want you to do in the top right corner of those sheets, where it says 1 through 10, I want you to write in a 1 through a 10. 10 means you're completely confident in your current plan, you fully address taxes, income, market risk, long-term retirement, all of those things. That's a 10. You got it all figured out. 1 means you don't really have a plan that's fully developed, or maybe you don't have a plan at all. So then you put a 1 in there if that's the case, or between 1 and 10 if you're in that range. So write that down. We're going to come back to these numbers, a little later on tonight as well. So let me just quickly set also some expectations here for tonight. So some of you are going to say, this is exactly what you've been looking for. That's great. And for those people, we're going to schedule a follow-up with me at some point in the future where we can do a one-on-one analysis of your situation. Some of you are going to say, this isn't for me at this point in time. That's fine. So at some point, if you have friends, relatives, colleagues that might need something like this, you always refer them to us. But most people are going to be in the middle where you've got a lot of questions, and that's pretty normal. Where to be, that's where the majority of people are at. So as we go along on that note paper that you got, we want you to write down things. If you have a question, write it down. If you see a risk for yourself, go ahead and write it down. If you want to make some notes, go ahead and write it down, because if you write it down, chances are that you're really going to remember it a lot better, in the future. So tonight we're going to talk about why is retirement today fundamentally different than it used to be? Why are traditional retirement accounts sometimes going to put you in a bad position, create tax problems for you later? How do Roth conversion strategies help you create tax efficient income? And how this thing is going on and off. And how you implement a strategy is really just as important as if you implement a strategy or not. So with that, I want to get started, and we'll use this screen up here. So as I said, I've been doing this for a lot of years. 20 plus years. I used to run a company called KTEL International before this. I was the CEO of that company, about $100 million business. But the last 25 years, I've been working on retirement and we're helping people with their financial affairs and honing in on doing retirement planning during that period of time. So this page is pretty simple. It just says that I'm not licensed to give you, legal or tax advice, although with respect to what we're going to be covering, I know pretty much all the ins and outs as relates to all of that. So I'm really what's considered a decumulation specialist, I wanted to walk through, a bit of a definition here. So there's a big difference between financial advisors that are helping you grow your income during your accumulation years. You're climbing that mountain financially. The decumulation people like myself, we're helping you get down off the mountain. And that's where people make, the biggest mistakes actually in mountain climbing. Same thing. The biggest problems they have is not when they go up; it's when they come down the mountains. That's where they have all the accidents actually happen. So we're really going to help you with managing your assets, helping you pay down. We understand market volatility, longevity, RMDs, and all those things. So that's our specialty. And there's really a philosophical difference between the accumulation phase of your life and the decumulation phase of your life. So why do you need a Roth conversion decumulation specialist, which is what I do? So traditional advisors are going to focus on the accumulation stage. They probably have limited tax planning experience. They don't really may understand a lot of the nuances of tax planning in retirement, and they're going to be working in isolation. They really don't have the kind of support that we use. We're, on the other hand, we specialize in retirement spending. We have that tax optimization experience. We help you reduce your tax expenses paid out of pocket, and we're going to eliminate all of your downside risk. Plus, we have the availability of specific retirement consultants that can help us with specific instances if we don't know the exact answer, which actually I just did that for a person the other day. They didn't understand how to transfer money into their daughter, and we went through and figured out the best way to do all that for them. So what we want to accomplish here is a 0% tax strategy. Right now, if you take money out of your pre-tax accounts, the federal government gets some, the state of Minnesota gets some, you get some, you have partners, right? What I think we want to do is get rid of our partners. Isn't what we want to do? We don't need those partners, right? Okay, so what we want to do is take action. So why do Roth conversion make sense at this point? And there's been a huge drive towards people converting traditional IRAs, 403Bs, 401Ks to Roth IRAs because of the tax consequences of that. Because what's happened here over the last years, our national debt has just gone through the roof. I think it's like $38 trillion at this point in time and growing. I think our interest on our national debt this year is going to be $1 trillion or over $1 trillion. The U.S. debt's currently at about 125% or more of our GDP. We're really at sort of an unsustainable level. In addition to that, Social Security is going under big strain. We're going to potentially run out of money in a few years. Actually, Social Security, when it started many years ago, for every person taking money out, we had 30 or 40 people putting money into Social Security. However, today, for every person that's taking money out of Social Security, there's only 3 or 4 that's putting money into Social Security. So there's a strain. The Social Security Trust Fund can only pay money out if it has funds to do so. So at some point in the future, instead of getting 12 checks a year, you might get 11 or 10 or 9 or some other number. So that's another issue. And then we've got Medicare and Medicaid sort of going through the roof. What is that going to do to us? Well, we're going to hit a perfect storm here in a couple of years, where the interest on the national debt, Medicare, and Social Security is going to consume 100% of the federal tax revenue. Well, we could keep printing money. Right now, we take in about $5 trillion, but we're spending about $7 trillion. So we're got a little $2 trillion shortfall there. So it's easy to say, but I don't even know how much $2 trillion is, but it's a lot, right? But we can't. What we've been doing is we've been printing money. So we just can't keep doing that indefinitely. So what are we going to do about that? What's the easiest thing to happen? Taxes, right? Taxes potentially could go up a lot. And we don't know what the tax rates are going to be. Right now we're sitting at the lowest the tax rates have been probably for the last 100, other than a few years. This is the lowest tax rates we've had federally in the last 100 years. Who knows how long that's going to last though. So here's your IRA tax trap. This is the tax trap that if you have money sitting in pre-tax accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, deferred comps, plans, things like that, you're all sitting on this kind of trap. So the first thing that happens, of course, is as you take money out of your pre-tax accounts, what happens? It's taxable, right? You have to add it to your income. You take out $20,000, $30,000 from your account. Go ahead. Hello, yeah, there we go. I don't know why this thing is going on and off, but it is. I may switch to the other one in a minute. So traditional IRAs are taxed at the current tax rates whenever you start removing money. And we don't know if those tax rates are going to be 5 or 10 or 15 years from now, right? I mean, we don't know what we're going to be paying. Right now, 22, 24% seems pretty normal, but who knows 10, 15 years from now, it could be 32, 34, 42. Who knows what the tax rates are going to be at some point in the future. The other thing is that all traditional pre-tax accounts are going to be subject to required minimum distributions when you turn 73 or 75, depending on your date of birth, right? So the issue there, of course, as you take that money out, that's all going to be taxable to you as well. What's some unknown tax rate? And the other thing about that is, as you take money out, you pay taxes, and let's say you've got X dollars left over, and you reinvest that, the growth on that's going to be taxable again. So you get hit twice. It's like a double whammy if you're doing that. Here's another big one. For those of you that want to leave a legacy to your heirs, if you leave them a traditional IRA, you can really exacerbate their situation because they'll be under the 10-year inherited IRA rules, which means they're going to have to withdraw it over a period of 10 years, right? And they're going to have to pay taxes, whatever their tax rates are, 20, 30, 40 years from now, whenever it is that you pass on and you pass this money on. So, and you can really exacerbate their situation. The other thing that you can really exacerbate for them and for yourself is your IRMA costs and their IRMA costs. If you transfer too much money over and they're starting to take money out, all of a sudden they will wind up paying an additional amount of money, because of IRMA. You actually could increase their tax situation at some point in the future. Also, depending on how much your income is, you could wind up with an IRMA issue for the rest of your life. So that's what we want to avoid. So here's some of the basic risks that you face in the future. So here are the decumulation risks that all of us face as we go through the retirement years. First of all, something called sequence of returns risk. Does anybody know what a sequence of returns risk is? There's one right there. Okay, well, I'm going to walk through and explain it to you a little better here. And market volatility, that's pretty straightforward, right? If the market goes down and you have money sitting in the market, so do you, right? I mean, if the market crashes, you crash along with it. Market volatility. Longevity, outliving your money. So if some point in the future your expenses are exceeding your income, all of a sudden you don't have enough money to pay all of your bills on an annual basis. You've really sort of outlived the amount of money that you have available. Rising taxes is a big one, right? I mean, we don't know what tax rates are going to be. I mean, right now, as I said, we really have a tax holiday going on at this point. We're sitting at one of the lowest tax rates ever in the last 100 years. Long-term care, I don't know how many people here have a long-term care policy? Does anybody have a long-term? Good for you. And do you have one too? No, well, so they're good for you. So I mean, long-term care is a huge issue for a lot of people. I mean, it's an asset protector. Long-term care today costs $6,000 to $10,000 a month. By the time we might need it, 10, 15, 20 years from now, instead of being 6 to 10, it could be 15 to 20,000. So all of a sudden, we're spending $250,000 a year in long-term care. You're in there for 5 years, you bankrupt yourself, right? Long-term care is a big issue and the statistic is the following: for every two-person household where the two people are more than 60 years old, 70% of those households, at least one person is going to require long-term care during their lifetime. That is the U.S. statistics. So chances are in this room, some people here will require long-term care during their lifetime. Inflation, you just basically erodes your purchasing power over time. Monkey mind is a real simple thing. It just, as we get older, sometimes we go out we just make silly mistakes. We go chase the silver dollar, and we invest in things we do things that we shouldn't, and we wind up losing stuff. And of course, as I mentioned, Social Security, has an unknown future to this. So what we're facing, though, is as we go forward, one of the things that you face is the potential for a bear market. So a bear market is when the market drops. Historically, every 5.3 years, we've had a substantial market revaluation, right? In 2002, it was about 25%, in 2010 about 30%, in 2009 and 2008 it was 50%. But a 50% drop requires how much of an increase to get back to even? 100%, exactly right. And so that's something else that we're facing as we go forward, especially if you have your money sitting in the marketplace. At some point you might be hitting that, which is okay when you're 35 years old, right? But I got a feeling we don't have too many 35-year-olds here tonight, right? So but when we're 35, what happens? We just wait it out because it's going to come good at some point in time. But when you're 65 or 70 or 75, you may not want to wait 10 or 12 years before you can get access to your funds again. So we want to avoid that as well. And the products that we would use will avoid this from happening. That's one of the big risks that we're going to deal with. When we do a Roth conversion, we're going to eliminate this issue as well. So sequence of returns risk. This is probably one of the biggest risks that people face in their retirement years, although they really don't quite understand that that's the case. So, whoopsie, I don't want to do that. So this is the accumulation phase, where we have here's an example, $300,000 starting number. We got John and we got Jane. They're 41 years old. John is not taking any money out of this. He's still 41. He's still accumulating. But he's investing his money. He loses 10% the first year. He loses 13% the third year. He loses 23% the third year. Then he starts making. By the time he turns 65, he's got $834,000 in his account. He made 7%. Jane, on the other hand, we took the exact inverse set of returns. She loses money when she's 65, 60, the 10, 13, and 23. What he lost in the first 3 years, she loses in the last 3 years. But she makes money in the first 3 years and throughout. She also winds up with $800,000 at the end of that 25-year period. They both made 7%. Okay. The issue is when we get to the decumulation phase. So they both started out with $834,000. We're going to take out 6% a year. We're going to take out $50,000 a year. They need that to live on during retirement. Well, here's John again. He loses the 10% in the first year because he invested in the market. He loses 13% in the second year. He loses 23% in the third year. 12 years later, he is out of money. Because if you lose money in the first several years, first 5 years of your retirement in a serious way like this, it is basically impossible to recover. So if you have your money sitting in the market, and this happens to you, you can't recover. Jane, on the other hand, she has the exact inverse set of returns. So she makes 23%, 24%. She loses money back here when she's 88, 89. She's still got $900,000 when she's 90. So she has money for 25 years. John runs out of money in 12 years because of the thing called sequence of returns. Does that make sense to you? I mean, you understand that, you know, how that works. I mean, it's a mathematical model. I mean, that's exactly how it would work. Is that pretty clear to everybody? Anybody have any questions on that? No? Okay, if you do, this would be a good thing to mark down. One of your big risks is a sequence of returns. You have a question?
Should have stuck his money in the mattress.
If you stick your money in the mattress, that's what John should have done. He stuck it in the mattress. Actually, that's not a good idea for him either, but because then he'd lose to inflation. So yeah, he doesn't want to do that either. That's not a good solution. It wouldn't be growth. All right. So there is a potential solution for all of this, and that's what we want to talk about tonight. What is the potential solution? We're going to do a Roth conversion inside a bonus fixed indexed annuity. So some of you may know something about annuities. You may think you know something about annuities. Forget what everything you know. Disregard it. Because this is a modern day fixed indexed annuity. It's a modern day product designed for doing Roth conversions. There's only about half a dozen companies that have put together the right kind of product that will allow us to facilitate Roth conversions effectively. There's only about half a dozen big companies that have done that. They recognized a number of years ago that a lot of people like us had, many years ago, we were told, put your money in a traditional IRA, you won't pay taxes. By the time you need to retire, you'll have less money, you'll pay less taxes, etc. Didn't work out that way, right? I mean, now we've got all this big concern about taxes in the future. So here are some of the features that these products need to have. Number one, we need to have a significant bonus added to your account. When you make a deposit, we have more than one choice, but I'm going to show you an example here where the bonus is going to be 24%. So if you made a deposit of $500,000, they would put in 120. Day one, you'd have $620,000 in your account. That's going to help pay. That's going to pay for most of your taxes for this conversion process. That's one big feature we need. Number two, it has no downside risk. Even if the market took a dip of 50% or whatever it took, the worst you can do due to a market decline is get a zero. You can't lose any money due to a market decline. So we're going to avoid market volatility and sequence of returns risk right off the bat. Those are your two big ones because this product comes with that guarantee of no downside risk. And I'll tell you how they make that work, how that is able to work. It allows you also to do partial Roth conversion. So if you make a deposit of $500,000, you don't want to convert all that in 1 year because you'd have, $200,000 of taxes. So that's what we want to do. We want to convert a small amount over a number of years. What we're actually going to do is once a year we're going to have a meeting generally in October to figure out what your taxable income is going to be for the year. And there we're going to see how much have you got room between the 22 or the top of the 24% tax bracket, and we're going to constrain the amount we convert so that we don't go above that 24% tax bracket. So each year we'll figure out how much we're actually going to convert each year. We don't want to, so part of what we're going to be doing is we have the ability to manage your marginal tax rates as well as we go through this conversion process. And then if you need money, you can start taking a little bit out at a time. When you pass away, if you haven't spent it all, 100% of it will go to your beneficiaries. And if you convert it to a Roth, it all goes to them tax-free. And of course, If it's a Roth, it's no longer subject to RMDs either. So what are we going to do? We're going to convert to the IRA to additional IRA, to a Roth IRA inside the bonus fixed index annuity. That's going to, once we've converted, that eliminates your tax trap, right? Because no taxes on that as we go through the growth. And the bonus that we're going to get is going to recapture really the bulk of your taxes that you're going to have to pay during this conversion process as well. So here we got here's somebody who has got this got a letter from the Social Security Administration, and I'm going to have this lady right over here read it out to you.
This is from the Social Security Administration Retirement Survivors and Disability Insurance Division, and it says, "Dear sir, we are writing to you about your Social Security benefits. What you should know, based on the information we have, we cannot pay benefits beginning December 2022. Your monthly medical insurance premium is $527.50. The monthly benefit that you should get is less than your medical insurance premiums. We are stopping your monthly benefits starting December 2022 to pay for part of this premium. After adjusting for your monthly benefits, we find that we must bill you for $1,353.60.
So that's kind of an unfortunate situation where their IRMA cost, because of their retirement income, drove their IRMA to be in excess of what their Social Security payment was, and all of a sudden they owed money back. The bad thing about, well, that's bad by itself. But here's the worst thing is, though, they get taxed on the gross amount on the money they never received in addition to that. So if they should have got $400 a month, they get taxed on the full $400. Question?
Can you give a little description what IRMA is?
Oh, you don't know what IRMA is? Oh, okay. Yes. IRMA is it's a monthly adjustment amount that the Social Security can do. It's based upon if you're a single taxpayer or a joint taxpayer. But there's a graduated scale. Right now, Medicare Part B is $202 a person a month. However, so if you have a two-person household and your income is $218,000 or less, you'll be paying $202 a month for Medicare Part B. But if it goes from $218 to $237, it goes up about $95. Actually, it has graduated leaps all the way up to about $600 extra dollars per month that you would have to pay. So during your lifetime, you can pay tens of thousands, maybe over $100,000 more in IRMA if you don't manage your 401ks, your IRAs. If you keep pulling money out, that is all taxable. If you have a Roth, it wouldn't apply.
And what do the letters stand for? What do the IRMA letters stand
Well,
for?
MAA's monthly adjustment amount, and I can't remember what the IRs. I'll look at it. No, it's not. But I'll figure it out. We'll talk about it afterwards. I actually have a chart on that, and then I'll pull it up a little later on. So here's how it all works. The IRA funds are going to be rolled over to your bonus fixed index annuity. So it's a non-taxable rollover. It goes trustee to trustee. So whatever, let's say you have your money sitting at Fidelity or Vanguard or Edward Jones or someplace. They're going to send that check directly to the new financial institution. That's considered a trustee to trustee rollover. There's no taxes on that transaction. Then the bonus you're going to get is partially going to recapture your tax loss, and then we're going to convert your IRA to a Roth IRA, but we're going to do that over a multiple number of years. We're not going to do it all in 1 year. We're going to once again, we're going to constrain the amount we're going to convert to max out on either tax or to max out on IRMA. We can pick a number of different ways to show what our maximum conversion is going to be, because this could affect your IRMA as well. And we can do it without any out-of-pocket payments from you as well. So here are the benefits. When you start taking withdrawals from a Roth, what are taxes going to be when you take money out of a Roth? What was that? Zero, correct. They're going to be zero, exactly right. And then are Roths, are you subject to RMDs if you have a Roth?
No.
No, right. And the other thing about that, but if you do take a withdrawal from your Roth and you put it into another Roth account, the growth on that is going to be tax-free. Whereas before, if you took money out of your traditional IRA, you grew that, that's going to be taxable. But here it's going to be tax-free as well. And here's another big one. If you want to leave a legacy to, your spouse, your children, whoever, they're going to get it all tax-free. Roths are not considered taxable instruments, and they also will not affect your IRMA. They won't affect your Medicare Part B rates because it's not included in that calculation. So that's another thing. So if you transfer money to your beneficiary, you're not going to exacerbate their tax situation. You're not going to affect your own IRMA. You're not going to affect your beneficiary's IRMAs as well. So having a Roth has multiple terrific advantages there. Are we making sense so far? Yes? Is that a yes? All right, good. All right. So what I want to do is then explain the product, the financial tool we're going to use to facilitate this transfer, this rollover. All right? So we're going to use a bonus fixed indexed annuity. That's basically the name of it. And as I said before, the money's going to go directly from wherever it's sitting now directly to the new financial institution. There's only about half a dozen companies. These are large A-rated financial institutions. So that direct transfer is going to avoid withholding because it's trustee to trustee. So no taxes at that point in time. Here's what Warren Buffett said. He's done okay for himself, I think. He said, rule number 1, don't ever lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Well, why did I put that in there? It's because this product has another thing that is going to avoid another risk you have, which is you can never lose any money. I mean, you might not make money for a year, but I always thought that getting a 0 is better than losing 20 or 30% anyhow. Wouldn't you agree with that? Yes? Of course. So here's the clawback trap. If you got money sitting in a mutual fund, stock accounts, especially today, in the last couple of days, right? Market's been pretty awful, right? And so any given year, you can lose money. So what do? They just, take back the profits you've had in previous years. So, but if we were to get another loss like back in 2008, where you lost 40%, I mean, it's going to wipe out years of your gains, right? So the question you have to ask yourself at this point in your life: how much risk are you willing to accept? How much of your money are you willing to lose? Maybe some, maybe none, maybe all of it. But generally, we recommend as we get above age 55 that we start moving some of our money out of the market, we put it into a pocket where we can't lose it, but we can grow it. If we need it, we can get at it. And we even the market goes down, we know it's not going to go down, right? So that's the clawback trap that we want to avoid. But the market's still at high levels. Now it's a good time to lock in whatever gains you got. The initial transfer is tax-free, and it comes with a guarantee you cannot lose any money if the market goes down. So we're going to avoid sequence of returns risk. We're going to avoid market volatility risk as well. Do you understand why it does that? Yes? Anybody hand to understand why this avoids that? Does anybody understand that? With a raise of a hand, do you understand why that works?
No.
You don't? Okay, so if the product that you're going to get comes with a guarantee that even if the market is negative, you cannot lose any money in your account. All right? You understand? Yeah, is that clear? Your initial investment and any gain that you've had in any previous year. So once they put money into your account, they can't come back and take it out either. So it's the initial plus any gain that you've had as well. It's always risk-free. But it allows you to participate in the upside, though. No downside risk. And there's a very sophisticated way that these large financial institutions are able to make all of that happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert your traditional IRA accounts to a Roth with little or no money out of pocket for taxes. We guarantee that you can't lose any of your principal or any of your gain in previous years due to market volatility, because your money is never going to be invested in the market. That's not what happens to the money that you invest here. So I'm going to explain just briefly how does this work. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here. This is something that we can cover more on an individual basis. But let me just give you kind of a brief overview of how does a fixed index annuity work. So similar to your mutual funds, the performance of fixed index annuity is also going to be tied to a stock, to a market index. However, none of your money is actually going to be sitting in the index. We just use external index as a calculator for how your account grows. If the external index grows, your account's going to grow as well. If the external index goes down, you get a zero. You can't lose any money on down. So let's just say hypothetically that, and you hear some of them, obviously the S&P 500 is an unmanaged index. But we have all these professionally managed indexes like the AI Go, the AI Techs, PIMCO, Janus, Barclays, Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, Goldman, all have their own indices that we use. And what we do is the following. Let's just say that we're going to use the AI Go as the index we're going to use. But in real life, we're not going to just have one index. We're going to have, a whole series of them. We're going to have a whole series of them. We'll have, probably 10 different ones. So not all of your money is not tied to just one indice. But let's say, just for purposes of this little explanation, it was all tied to the AI Go. Now, this particular these products, they only revise the value of your money once a year or once every 2 years. It doesn't go up and down every single day. You could watch it for a whole year, unless you're taking money out, it'll be the same number every single day. At the end of the year is when they apply any interest that you could earn. So let's say we'll take the AI Go, we'll take the 2-year version of that. So let's say you've got $500,000 in here, and let's say that AI Go over 2 years grows by, pick a number, it grew by 20%, let's say. So we then say, what percent of the 20% will we give to this person's $500,000? How much of that 20% are we going to give them? It's called a participation rate. Right now, because of the high federal interest rates, that participation rate on that index is 125%. So your money wouldn't grow by 20%, it would grow by 125% of 20, it actually grow by 25%. So 2 years later, you'd have $625,000 in your account. I know that's a bit of a complicated concept to go through, but when we get together individually, I'll walk you through that, and I'll walk you. Can you hear me? Hello, there we go. I don't know what happened to it, but all of a sudden it has a mind of its own, I guess. So that's participation rates, very key thing. And right now, participation rates at a really high level because of the high Fed rate. As long as we have that high Fed rate, new money coming in is going to enjoy really high participation rates and high bonuses. On the other hand, if let's say the index goes negative on us, instead of growing by 20%, maybe it drops by 5%. What happens to your money then? Can you lose anything? No, you can't lose anything, right? You're following that? You understand that? So you can grow your money, but you can't lose any based upon these indices. All right? And that's a key thing. So it can grow but never go down. All right. And then and once you put money in, once they add money to your account, those gains are locked in, so they can't take it back. So if they add some money, they can't take that back in subsequent years. So there are 4 kinds of annuities available in the marketplace. An immediate, I don't recommend that. A variable, I don't recommend that. A fixed annuity, I don't recommend that either. The only one we're going to recommend is the fixed indexed annuity. I'm just going to skip over these first 3. We can go through them individually later on, but we're going to skip over those right now. And we'll jump up to the fixed indexed annuities. I'm going to skip through these here. So the fixed index annuity, that's what I want to talk about. And that's what we're trying to, the image we're trying to convey here tonight. By the way, it's what I do for myself. Money I don't have in the market, I put into fixed index annuities. And the product I'm going to recommend is something that I personally own. I've been doing this for a lot of years, and over the years, we have moved probably, lost track, $150 million, $200 million into fixed index annuities over the last years. And I still talk to everybody once a year, so I must have done something right along the way. They're all happy to. So, and also last year, in 2025, there was $320 billion that flowed into fixed index annuities as a product type. $320 billion. So more than 1 million people put money into fixed index annuities in 1 year alone. And that number's been growing every single year. It's actually become the number 1 or number 2 place for seniors to put, a slice of their money. Maybe not all of their money, but a significant slice of it. So if you make it a deposit, you have an opportunity for growth. There are 2 kinds of fixed indexed annuities. First one comes with a lifetime income rider attached to it. It is not designed to grow a big amount of money. It is designed to pay you or you pay your spouse for the rest of your lives until the second one passes away. So even if you've been taking money out of it for 15 years, you've sucked all the cash out of it, and the death benefit's at 0, but one of you is still living, you're 95 years old, it'll keep on paying. It's going to pay for life. So for those people that have a concern about expenses and income over the years, we're going to find one of these products that's going to fill in that gap, because that's going to guarantee to pay you for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. The other product is a straight accumulation product, and that's what we're going to use for your Roth accumulation, for your Roth conversion. You make a deposit, you're going to get that bonus of 24%. Some are 25, some are different, but we're going to use the 24% option. We go through the Roth conversion. The account's going to grow. Then you start taking money out as you need in the future, and eventually it's going to go on to your beneficiary. So lifetime income, accumulation. Those are the 2 kinds of fixed index annuities. Lifetime income pays you a lifetime income. The accumulation product is designed to accumulate wealth. It's not designed to pay you a stream of money each year. Okay, so what does the insurance company do with the money you deposit with them? This is kind of a pretty sophisticated thing. They can't invest your money in the market. They can only put your money in high-grade securities, AAA bonds, government treasuries, things like that. So how do they get your upside? Remember that if all of your money is sitting in this bond portfolio, which has no downside risk, and that's how they can guarantee no downside risk, they get about 5%. They make about 5% a year out of this bond portfolio. 2 of those percentage points, they generally goes to paying their bills and their profits. They make a tiny profit, but on a huge asset base. The other 3%, they buy options on the external index that we use as your calculator. We're not going to get too deep into this. I sat through this with the actuaries once. It took 6 hours to explain it. I'm only going to take a minute to do this at this point. So bottom line, it's a very sophisticated way where they guarantee no downside, but through an options, they're able to get you upside. Basically, they'll buy an option. If we have the S&P 500, a 1-year option, end of the year, if the S&P is up, they execute to make the upside. If the S&P is down, they let their option expire. They lose the 3%, but none of your original deposit. So that's how that works in that case. So did anybody understand that? With the raise the hand if you sort of got the idea of how options. Good, thank you. All right, good, yes. Question?
Yes. Can you talk about the tax-deferred growth that you've got bulleted up there relative to the fixed index annuity?
Well, if you have any money still in there that's a traditional IRA, would grow tax deferred. If you convert it to a Roth, there wouldn't be any taxes anyhow. So it's only for people that have money sitting in there. It's either a non-qualified account, or if it be a traditional IRA, then it would accrue deferred taxes. But if it's a Roth, it would accrue 0.
So you can convert it.
Yeah, once you've converted, there's nothing going on, right? And you're going to convert it before you start taking the money out anyhow. So you'll never wind up, you'll never wind up, on that either anyhow. So, okay. So what are the advantages here? So if the insurance company, if you're basically, if an index that we're using as your calculator is up, what happens to your money over the year? Does it go up or down? If the index is up, what happens? Your account grows, right. If the index over the course of the year goes negative, what happens to your money? Stays the same. Exactly right. It can't go down because there was a market devaluation. So we talked about there's 2 kinds of fixed index annuities, one with lifetime income, one is designed to do wealth accumulation where we can attach the Roth conversion to that as well. When you pass away, 100% of the money is going to go to your beneficiary or beneficiaries if you have multiple beneficiaries. Each year you're going to get a growth based upon these uncapped upside options. Now, a lot of people think that, hey, the upside is capped at 2 or 3% or 4% or something. Not true. The most of the indices we're going to use have uncapped upsides. There are a couple that have caps, but most of them will have uncapped upsides. Remember, as I said before, the AI Go, actually you're going to get 125% of the growth. So, but whatever the growth is, you're going to, if it's 2%, you get 125% of 2. If it's 25%, you get 125% of 25%. There's no top to that. There's no top to that. There are no sales fees in this either. By the way, I don't get paid a penny out of this account. I don't, either.
Maybe hold it like this.
Well, maybe. How's that? Is that better? All right, I'll try that. Okay. So I don't get paid anything out of this fees today, tomorrow, or even 10 years from now. You'll never have a financial obligation to us. But the financial institution we represent, they have a fee schedule. They'll actually pay us for the work that we do. But that comes out of their pocket. It doesn't come out of yours. They don't cross-charge that to you. They don't have any upfront fees, no management fees, or any of those kinds of things. Although, if we add a bonus, we could add a liquidity rider fee, which I probably would recommend doing, depending on what you want to do. But the basic product has no fees in it at all. So here's how it works. Let's assume you put in 100,000. And I'm not saying this is how your account's going to work. I just want to show you how the mathematics of this works, all right? I'm not saying this is what you're actually going to make. Let's say you put in $100,000. Let's say in the first index period after applying the participation rates, after applying the participation rates, you made 20%. So now they give you 20,000. Now you have 120,000 in your account. But let's say the next index period is actually negative by 10%. Well, you can't lose it. Once you put that 20,000 in your account, they can't take that back. Once it's in your account, they can't take that back. I'm going to switch mics. Here we go. All right. I think the battery was saying I've had done enough work for tonight. So, okay. So the next, if the index goes down by 10%, they can't withdraw any money once it's in your account. It becomes like principal. Now, let's say the third index period is up by 25%. I'm not telling you this is what you're going to make, but just to show the mathematics, you'd make 25% on the 120,000. You don't have to. You will recover the 10% that you lost in the interim. So you can go up, but you can never go down. You got a question there in the middle, or? All right. Okay, so a fixed index annuity can allow you to participate with an uncapped upside on your selected indices without any risk whatsoever to your principal. So it's a safe money place for some of your money. And a bonus fixed index annuity will get deposited. Now, it vests over 10 years. So if they give you $100,000 or whatever the bonus winds up being, they're not going to let you walk away with it next day. It vests over 10 years. It's your money. We can take 10% of it a year out to pay to your taxes as we go along, but you can't take the whole thing out and go buy a new, you're not going to be able to go out and buy a new Mercedes or something. Okay, so similar to your mutual funds, the performance of fixed index annuity is tied to a stock market index, but it's not invested in any index at all. We're going to use one of these professionally managed indexes. Once again, they check the index value at the beginning of your contract year. At the end of the contract year, if the index is up, your account's going to grow. If the index is negative, you get a 0. And we're actually going to use, in real life, we'd use probably 10 or maybe as much as 20 different indices. Let's say 2 of them were negative and the rest are all positive. They simply don't count the 2 that are negative. They don't detract from the good ones. You only get credit for the ones that are positive. So, best yet, all gains are going to be locked in, and there's no clawback. And then if the index goes down, as I said, you can't lose any money at all. So there's 2 kinds of fixed index annuities. How do you get your money out? First one's the lifetime income product. So you said there, you make a deposit, you let it grow for a while, and at some point you say, I now need an additional stream of income, and it's going to pay out for the rest of your life. It's a payment for life. There's some additional features if you wind up in a long-term care facility that actually doubles payment in certain cases as well. The other one is the straight wealth accumulation product. You make a deposit, you get your bonus. We do the Roth conversion, it's going to grow, and then you can start taking money out. There are some rules on how you can take your money out of that over time as well. But that's what we're focusing on here tonight. If you convert to a Roth, you're not subject to any RMDs or any taxes. And on death, whatever's left over is going to get paid to your beneficiaries. So what I want to do is walk through and cover, just show you mathematically, how does this work. Okay, so there's a bunch of numbers on there. I'm sure you can't read all of them, but I'm just going to use some stuff just for illustration purposes, all right? I'm not saying this is what you're going to do exactly, but I wanted to show you how does this product actually work mathematically. And I'm going to say, that you got your federal tax rate is going to be 23%. And I'm saying your state tax is going to be 5%, your total taxes are 28%. I could be out by a point. I'm just using this as illustration. I'm also going to say that this bonus fixed index annuity is going to grow at the rate of 7% a year. Actually, historically, it's grown by a lot more than that, but I want to have a conservative number here. I'm going to add a liquidity rider fee to it to get a bunch of additional features that I'm going to cover with you later. It's going to cost you 0.95% each year for the first 10 years. So I'm going to say this product is going to grow at the rate of 6% a year. So here's a person, he's 66 years old. He starts out with $650,000. He gets a 24% bonus. So if he looks at his account the next morning, he actually has $806,000 in there. He got a bonus of $156,000 was added to his account. So now he's got $806,000 in his account. So the mathematical question we ask is, for an account that starts out with $806,000, growing at the rate of 6% a year, and we want that converted over 8 years, which is our default. We could do it faster or slower, but I'm using 8 years. How much do you have to convert each year? The answer is $122,000 in order to liquidate this over 8 years. That $122,000 is going to take $34,000 of taxes. So we'll pull $34,000, send it to you, and you'll pay the IRS, or you'll pay the state, their share of that. So it'll come right out of the account. By the end of the year, you've got $93,000 in your Roth, you've got $724 in your traditional IRA. Your total account's worth $818,000, even though you only put in $650,000, 12 months earlier. The next year we're going to convert 122 again. We don't have to do 122. We could do 100 one year, 150 the next year. We could skip a year. But this is the spreadsheet, so it's giving me the same number each year. We send you $34,000 again to pay your taxes. End of the second year, you got $192,000 in your Roth. You got $600,000 in your traditional. Your total account's worth $831. So we're slowly moving money from the traditional IRA to the Roth IRA. 10 years from over that 8-year period, we'll actually have converted $981,000 because we have to convert the $650 you put in, plus this bonus, plus the growth, all has to be converted that period of time. So we're going to wind up converting, 150% probably of what you put in. And that bonus you got paid for most of your taxes as well during that period of time. So 10 years from now, you've got, $1 million sitting in your account. All of that is now a Roth. That $1 million, if it was still a traditional IRA, you would need $1.8 million of a traditional IRA on an after-tax basis to equal $1 million of a Roth. You understand how that math works? Because you'd have to pay the taxes on the traditional IRA to get it to an after-tax, and you need about $1.8 million to equal $1 million. So that $650 we put in actually turned into $1.8 million over that period of time. So let's just take that forward. So here we are, these 76 years old, and we're going to then move it out. We're going to move it to, we're going to move it back to Fidelity, let's say. And it's going to make 7.5%. I'm going to say it's going to make 7.5% per year. If you left it all sit there, by the time you're 90, you got $2.8 million. And the other way is you do nothing. You start with $650. It's going to grow at 7.5%. Time you get to 73, you'll be subject to RMDs. You got to take out your RMDs, etc. I'm not going to go through all the numbers. By the time you get to 90, your traditional IRA is worth $1.3 million, still pre-tax. You'd have pulled out $1,251,000 of RMDs. You'd have paid $463,000 of taxes on that Your RMDs would have grown by 174. You would have paid 64,000 of taxes on that. So that RMD balance at age 90 is worth $898,000 after tax. But the $1.3 million is still pre-tax. So on an after-tax basis, at age 90, your traditional IRA is worth $1.6 million. Your Roth balance was worth 2.8. Your traditional IRA is worth $1.6 million. Because you converted it, you picked up over $1 million during that period of time. Huge difference of doing a conversion versus not doing a conversion. Yes, you have a question?
But the money that you convert from traditional to Roth is counted as taxable income, and that in turn can affect your IRMA.
That's true. But the IRMA cost is going to be here you're picking up $1.2 million, you might wind up paying an extra $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of IRMA during your lifetime, but versus $1.2 million, it's insignificant. So the answer is yes, but it's worth it to do it. Correct. So questions on that sort of before I press on? Anybody have any questions on that? Yes, back there.
How much you withdraw in a year from age 66 to 76? What are you living off of?
Well, we can withdraw money. This illustration shows no money coming out of this except for the RMDs. So, but and I'm actually showing here that it actually would be, if you took this RMD number and you actually spent that, this would be even a much bigger disparity. I'm showing the most liberal version of this comparison. So, but if you needed money from this account, yeah, we can take money out of this account. So at the end of this, I mean, these numbers aren't exactly accurate. I mean, I don't know exactly what the tax rates are going to be 15 years from now or the growth rates. But what I do know is the relationship of Roth traditional is absolutely accurate. That you'll have a lot more money over the years if you convert versus if you don't convert. Any other questions on this? No? Okay. Oh yes, right here.
You decide to go with the annuity. Is there any, and you change your mind, is there any surrender value?
Yeah, there is. I'll get together with you afterwards and I'll explain that. It's a little more of a complicated answer, but yeah, I'll walk through that with you. Somebody else had a question.
The liquidity fee, if, let's say that we have a catastrophe and all of your indexes are negative, are you still on the hook?
Yes.
For that liquidity
Yes.
fee? Okay.
Yes, you are. If everything was 0 or less, you'd still have that 0.95% in the first 10 years and then it goes away. Yes.
Or would that be taken from your balance?
Yes.
Okay.
It would just come out of the account, correct. Yep. However, historically, because we're going to spread this over a bunch of, 24 different indices, probably, 12 different indices, the chance of you getting a 0 or less is very rare. Once in a while, you'll get a 0, but almost never will there be a 0. Almost never, because we're spreading over all these different indices, and we do that in order to give you that diversity, so that doesn't happen.
So that fee is based on a percentage of your balance, not a flat fee? Or
It's based upon your opening balance each year, yeah. And then they take it out of your account at the end of the year, once a year. And after 10 years, it goes away. But there are products that don't have liquidity fees. They have a lower bonus. I use this one because it's a more flexible product. It's not the only version. We have non-fee products as well.
And so how long does your money have to sit in the fixed index annuity before you convert it to Roth?
A day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can start converting the next day if you want to. But we don't do that. We're generally going to convert towards the latter part of the year. We've got to figure out what your taxable income looks like for the year. We're going to have that discussion in October-ish. Figure out what your estimated taxable income is going to be, and then we're going to figure out how much we're going to convert that year. So we'll have that meeting once a year. So the question was, when can you start converting? The answer is you can start, immediately. Depending on the company we use, but basically we can start on this immediately. So any other questions here before we go through a little bit of a wrap up? Okay, so before we wrap up, let me just take a moment and sort of bring all this together. I mean, who here tonight learned something? Did anybody learn anything? Anybody? Good, all right. And who here has, some additional questions that didn't get answered here? Who has maybe some additional questions? Some people do. Okay. And who here is ready for some food? Yeah, everybody's ready for some food. Well, all right. Well, tonight was designed to give you a perspective on retirement planning, especially around taxes and required new minimum distributions, income, and risk. But as you probably realize by this point, we can't make these decisions in a group setting. They can only be made using your specific numbers. So let's quickly recap what we covered. Why are taxes in retirement often underestimated and so important to you? How are required minimum distributions? How do they impact your income and your Medicare costs, which is IRMA? What's the impact of market volatility and sequence of returns risk, which is one of your biggest risks? How does that affect your savings? And how do Roth conversion strategies, how does that create, tax-free income? But here's the reality. Really, none of that matters unless you handle this, correctly. So think back to the beginning where you wrote down that number from 1 to 10 on the top right side of your paper there. Has that number changed for any of you at this point in time? Has that number changed for anybody? Would somebody like to see that number increase by a few points? Anybody in that category? Anybody? Well, okay. And so if you want to improve that number by a few points, a lot of people do, because often what we don't know is our biggest long-term impact. Things that we don't know can impact us the worst in the way, in the future. So at this point in time, everybody generally falls into three categories. One is you're thinking this is exactly what I've been looking for. Number two, I still have some questions. I want to understand how this applies to me. And number three, you found this helpful, but you weren't ready to do anything at this point in time. So on the top left-hand corner of that paper, I want you to circle either a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Number 1 is, this is what you've been looking for. Number 2, I got some questions. Number 3 is 5. And 3 is that, this doesn't really apply to you at this point in time. So for those of people that wrote down a 1 and a 2, what we do is we're going to schedule a brief 30-minute phone call with myself. There's no cost and no obligation to that. There's no catch. And we'll look at your specific situation. Because if you can spend 30 minutes to protect what took you 30 years to grow, wouldn't that be time worth spent for you? So when you came in tonight, you received some materials. Included in there was a feedback form. I'd like everybody to fill that form out because otherwise, I want to make sure the IRS know this was a business meeting. I just didn't invite 45 of my best friends to dinner here tonight. So if you could all fill out that feedback form, at least one per family, I would really appreciate that. You've also got an availability calendar behind that. If you could mark down a 1 or a 2 in the white spaces on a time that would be work for us to have a call, do that, and we'll come around and we will firm that up with you just in a few minutes here during dinner. So once again, well, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate your time. I look forward to speaking and working with as many of you as want to do that. And so enjoy your dinner. I think it's going to be out here really momentarily. And once again, thanks for coming tonight. So did we learn anything tonight? Jim, you want to grab this stuff and we can start?